All right, so let's just take it from the Cowboys versus Eagles. So Cowboys brought down the Eagles 33-13 at Sunday in Dallas. Very excited about it. The quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, is strengthens his MVP case. He's now the favorite to win the MVP. 24 of 39 passing for 271 yards and 2 touchdowns for the win. And I think the biggest talked about person wasn't even the quarterback. I think it was the kicker out of everybody. For once, the kicker is getting some love. Brandon Aubrey continue his tear to start his career. 60-yard field goal and a 59-yard field goal, plus a 45-yard field goal, plus a 50-yard field goal. And he is the first NFL kicker to ever kick from 59 yards out twice in one game. So I want to hear your thoughts first, because obviously I got a lot on my mind being a big Cowboys fan. So you watching that game, and you guys just played the Eagles. You watched the Eagles kind of get absolutely demolished and then getting demolished right after it by the Cowboys. What are your thoughts about kind of their, I wouldn't say decline, but their 2-week slump right now?
I wanted to start in on the kicker, man. You guys got him in the third round, right? You spent a third round pick on him. Oh wait, no, that was us that spent the third round pick on the kicker, and you guys got the undrafted guy. Okay, now that we're caught up on the life of drafting a kicker in the third round of the NFL draft, who cost us a game against the Browns this year. Nothing about this game surprised me outside of being a 49er fan and expecting the Cowboys to find a way to screw it up. Nothing surprised me on this. I think earlier this year, the Cowboys did us a great service by looking mediocre against the Cardinals. And so we were fully prepared to go play the Cardinals. Because if we had played the Cardinals first, we might have taken them lightly. You guys lost to them, so we didn't. We handled business. I think there are some parallels with that this time around, where the blueprint, Deebo Samuel talked about this all the way back to last year's Super Bowl. The blueprint was out on how to beat the Eagles. We went in there with a game plan, and I think you guys went in there with the same game plan. And setting some of that aside a little bit is Tyreek Hill's on an absolute tear this year, but if Tyreek Hill doesn't exist, are we talking about CeeDee Lamb as the best wide receiver in the NFL right now? Because that dude, I got him on my fantasy team. He's just every week. I mean, it's getting to the point where when players do what they do week in and week out, you kind of forget that it's special. You know, I was talking to a friend about, outside of Tyreek Hill, is CeeDee Lamb the offensive player of the year? And we got about 15 minutes in this conversation. And then he's like, what about Christian McCaffrey? And I was like, oh, yeah, Christian McCaffrey is a baller. It's probably him. Because when you bring what you bring to the table, like Christian McCaffrey does, he rushes for 140 yards and a touchdown. We're just like, oh, yeah, that's what he does. That's what CMC does. Kind of take it for granted. But as CeeDee Lamb's coming out,
it's kind of like that Mike Evans conversation that we
100%.
had last week, is you take a lot of that for granted, you know, and that's a year-to-year basis. But a week-to-week basis, it's like with CD, it's like, oh, he's the first NFL player to 10 catches, 120 yards, you know, with 3 straight games. And then it's, you know, he doesn't get the ESPN, Bleacher Report, House of Highlights coverage anymore. And you kind of do take a little bit of that for granted. If you're not being covered that often on those major sports apps, I think your hype dies down a little bit, especially if you're doing it continuously. Obviously, those guys always love to hype up certain players, right? They're always going to hype up Patrick Mahomes, and they're always going to hype up guys like, I mean, you guys got your love and your coverage this past week. I mean, just on that long Christian McCaffrey run, they took a look at Brandon Ayuk doing his blocking, and they took a look at Christian McCaffrey on his run, and they took a look at who was it? Oh, Brock Purdy somehow getting all the way down the field instantly. As soon as Christian McCaffrey got down, he was right there too. So if you're not getting love on those apps continuously, you're kind of just forgotten about, you know, that you're even decent or good. It's like the NFC gets all the coverage on those apps, and you almost forget that the Ravens have 10 wins as well. You almost hear nothing about the AFC, I feel like, outside of Patrick Mahomes, or if Josh Allen does something really cool. You don't really hear a lot about it.
There's a super interesting game coming up on Christmas. The Ravens are headed to Levi's to play the 49ers in what could be a potential, I know you don't want to hear this, but that's a potential Super Bowl matchup right now based off of what's going on in the AFC and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, and how mortal they look currently, and how the Bills The Bills are scary because they can fumble their way through the regular season and then turn it on come playoff time. I don't think anyone wants to play the Miami Dolphins in the playoffs, but I think that the top of the leaderboard right now in the NFC is much stronger than the AFC. And frankly, I would love to see what the betting line would be on the Cowboys coming to Levi's in the playoffs this year. And I imagine the 49ers will keep the points based because of the home team gets the 3 points. That's got to be it, though. 3-point favorite, I'd imagine, because the 49ers haven't played this Cowboys team. And people take, the dominance that they've had the past couple of years against them, but they've never played Dak at this level. They've never I watch him every week waiting for him to turn back into pumpkin. Like, all right, Dak, where you at? We know you're out there.
Right.
And he's got a significant MVP case this year. Now, if you take his statistics and run him back through the past couple of years, he's not the MVP candidate, but there's no quarterback out there throwing 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards this year. So it is what it is. The advanced numbers, which I won't bore people with on these ones, I'm a huge fan of the advanced numbers. Everybody loves Brock Purdy and Dak Prescott right now. Brock Purdy might be the best downfield passer in the history of the NFL by the time the season's over, based off of some numbers, completion rate and air yards. And again, we won't go into that because it's boring. But it's shaping up to be very, very exciting. I have to tell you, I would love to see the Eagles again in the playoffs. They don't worry me at all. Don't really want to see the Cowboys.
Right.
I hope the Cowboys get the 5th seed and they have to go through the gauntlet, and the 49ers can waltz into the Super Bowl and focus on the AFC problem there, because the Eagles don't scare me. Obviously, the Lions don't scare me. Getting to the point where the Cowboys scare me. And it's been a long time since I said that. So they look awesome.
I think this is super interesting because obviously this game had huge implications. It takes them from the 1st seed all the way down to the 5th seed very quickly, right? It takes the Eagles from 1st to 5th instantly. So huge implications just from the game alone, but also it puts you guys at 1st and then bumps us up a little bit as well. But Jalen Hurts went 18 of 27 for 197 yards in the loss. They trailed at halftime again for the 6th straight game. 24-6 deficit was the largest yet. Their defense continued to be unreliable after the Eagles surrendered 6 straight scores at the end of your guys' game, 42-19. And that was at home against the Niners. The Cowboys scored 3 touchdowns and a field goal on the 4 first half possessions. So they just let it just roll and roll and roll and roll. You feel like after a beat down 42-19, a team would really kind of turn around, right? I mean, you saw it with the Cowboys. We got our teeth kicked in royally, right? And we turned it around instantly, and we said it's not going to happen again. We're not going to let a team come out and kick us in the teeth again. And we played the Eagles after you guys, and even though we lost, it was a close game. It came down to the final drive, and we just couldn't make it happen.
Inches,
and that's fine. I'm okay with that. As long as it's a close game. When you and I went to that game in Santa Clara, all we said between you and I is no matter who wins or who loses, let it be entertaining. Let it be a close game.
It was entertaining.
And it wasn't a close game. It was not entertaining. It was horrible. And we sat through every second of it. People were walking out, and we sat right there and watched every second of it. So this game had huge implications. We are all 10-3, but you guys hold the number 1 seed, obviously. So I think with that, because of the implications, that was game of the week in my eyes and the NFC eyes. But I think a lot of people are talking about this week is the Rams versus Ravens. You got one more thing on this?
Just to again, didn't do my research. I should look this up, but it's my understanding, and maybe you know this or don't know this, but if the Eagles went out and the Cowboys went out, the Eagles have a non-conference loss to the Jets, I believe, and you guys have a conference loss to the Cardinals. So I believe if you guys went out and they went out, they actually take the division because you lost in conference and they lost out of conference. So I think that's what the tiebreaker is. So you guys need them to drop another one. They got the Seahawks this week, and we saw what the Seahawks did to you guys. That game was very unexpected considering the game that they came off of against us. And, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, they have a talented squad over there. So I don't think I don't think it's a guarantee at all that the Eagles beat the Seahawks this week, but you guys have a tough upcoming schedule as well. So,
And they don't. They kind of have a walk in the park comparatively.
And all the
where
49ers really have is they do have the Ravens on Christmas Day, but then they get two divisional games, and they get that team, I forget what they're called because they've gone through 7 different name changes in the past 3 years, it feels like, but the Washington franchise is they play them